Hey, what's up, guys? Today I want to share with you the most profitable residential contract business model ever. And the reason why I say ever is because every time it's been challenged, this has come out the winner. The answer is math. This is the model that's underpinning the amazing profitable success over at CQC Home. And so let's get started. Let's explore the two fundamental ingredients to this model, and it's basically a wedding cake. And to give credit where credit's due, I adapted this model from Alex Hormozy over at the gym industry using his brilliance and just sort of plugged and played into what we know to be true in our industry. So the first ingredient is icing. Guys, icing, put it really simply, it's the money you make off design and it's the money you make off materials. And this is the cash flow that you recognize as gross profit immediately. This is your design, the money you're making off of design. This is the money you're making off markup on professional markup on materials. Any schmuck can try and claw 15, 20% markup on materials, but it takes a smooth operator to get 40 points or more. Anyhow, again, this is money that you can charge before you pick up a hammer where you can recognize as gross profit. Now, gross profit is your profit after fulfilling on your promise to the client that you can then use to run the business, and whatever is left over is your net profit. So next ingredient is cake. These are your build contracts. This is what's sitting in your backlog. And without icing, just a loaf of bread. Now, once you add that icing, now we got a cake and we can have a party. By itself, yes, you can eat it. Is it any good? Well, ask the guys that are slaving away, doing 2.4 million a year with zero profit to show for it, and ask them how they feel about having to choke down that cake. You need the icing. Anyway, moving on. Got a little ahead of myself, but the cake is also important. I don't want to poo-poo it. Cake is super important because that backlog is what makes you bulletproof to what's going on in the economy. And that's a picture of my own personal tank that was bulletproof that we named Cunt Punch until my battalion commander, his wife, came through the motor pool, and next thing you know, my tank has been renamed, which we renamed See You Next Tuesday, and she never got it. But anyway, moving on. Now, the thing is, this wedding cake of awesomeness in the most profitable remodeler model comes in two flavors, spiff and self-perform. Self-perform gosh, if you don't know what that means, I don't think you're a contractor. But spiff, yes, guys. Basically, it's subbing down without subcontracting the project management and the client experience. So, or rather, you still maintain ownership of the quality and schedule of the contract, but in terms of the day-to-day management, that's on the subcontractor. So to use a commercial construction analogy, that it would be like, instead of being the GC, you'd be acting as the owner's rep. So moving on, I give you the world's most profitable residential construction model. And each layer, guys, each layer to your cake is a specific product line. And not only is it a specific product line, it is the full capacity of a sales and project management team. I say that again, each layer. Now, what you're seeing in this cake assumes, just one sales and project management team. But if you had more teams, individual cells, task forces, if you will, you could have multiple layers of the same product line stacking on top of each other. And what you'll find at the bottom are the big ticket items that you can do. Okay, so that's why I said this works for anybody. If you're a painter that is starting to do, small level bathrooms, small level kitchens, then yeah, this model applies to you because at top you have paint and down below you have the remodels. If you're a design build contractor like CQC, you have a lot of additions and ADUs, and your second layer of self-performance are kitchens and basements and whole houses and man caves. Or let's say you're a home builder, like my boys over at Southeast General Contractors. They build new homes. They also do commercial, but we'll talk about that later. They build new homes and occasionally do an addition, right? It still works. Bottom layer are your big ticket stuff, then your next big ticket stuff. And then those combined are what you're self-performing, right? So if you're CQC, you're doing additions and ADUs down here in the bottom, and you're doing kitchens and basements and whole houses and man caves, the second level. But up above this, we're not self-performing anymore. We're spiffing it out. It's still, there's icing and cake involved. We never, ever, ever give up the icing. Ever. We always want that upfront cash. But yeah, we'll spiff out the cake because we don't have time to address these tiny projects, yet our marketing, our referrals, our customer list is bringing us these tiny projects. So we're going to get our beak wet on that. And all also too, super ninja move, you can use spiffed layers of your cake to grow up your best individual subcontractors. Moving on. And so what you'll see on the icing side, which is here on the left, you have materials and design. Now, if you run the system honestly like CQC does, you're charging 10% of the ballpark build price as a design fee, like due immediately. And so we're getting 2 helpings of icing here. Not only getting our design, we're also getting a markup on materials. And then the cake is what's left over, the actual doing of the thing. But anyway, moving on. So let's talk about 2, I don't want to call them broken models, but less optimal models, I guess is probably a good word for this. You got the subcontractor model, emphasis on sub, as in below, as in we need to get away from this as fast as possible. I mean, it's super common, and what you'll see is, these maybe single trade specialists, like they're really good painters or they're really good carpenters. And then they also do kitchen and bath, and they also happen to do additions, and they self-perform everything. They have no rhyme or reason to how they're slotting their construction schedule together to maximize their time. And oh, by the way, they don't control the customer, so they don't get any icing. And so then they wonder at the end of the year why there's no profit left over. And we'll get into the math on that in a second. And so then you have the proud craftsman model. Now, these guys are typically, they may be home builder focused like Southeast General Contractors, or they may be addition and ADU focused like CQC. And then they'll range up a level into kitchen and bath remodels, or if you're a home builder, into additions. It doesn't matter. They probably have 2 layers of cake in there and then just a whole bunch of icing. And my God, it's profitable. It's working. They don't want to change it. And I don't blame them, because it's working, comfortable. So this is what the typical subcontractor looks like. And their characteristics, guys, they're not getting any design money. They will self-perform anything. What I mean by self-perform, not just project management and client experience, but I mean all the fucking trades that go inside there. And they don't really have a process for getting a professional markup on their materials, right? They're constantly having to fight for that 10, 20% markup on their materials when they should be getting a professional 40. So the rest is just math, guys. I mean, average ticket, the only reason why I'm reading this off is for the podcast. So average ticket, 50K, average revenue range, where from 500K to 2.4 mil. Their profit centers, in other words, layers of cake, they probably have 1, maybe 2, definitely no icing. Average gross profit, they're getting 20, maybe 25%. And so between overhead at 14 points, paying sales, the standard 7, they're not doing any marketing. They're getting all their work handed to them by general contractors or architects or real estate investors. And so they can't charge those premiums, which is why they're getting only 20, 25% markup. And so after the owner pays himself, there isn't any profit left over. This fucking sucks. This is hell. Straight up hell. And then you got the proud craftsman model. Now these bubbas, they got the icing, and they're heavy on 1 layer, maybe 2. And so their average ticket will run anywhere from 220 to 1.5 mil. Annual revenue range, 2.4 mil to 5 mil. Profit centers, the layers of cake, definitely 1, maybe 2. They're getting a little bit more gross because they've got some icing. And so they're getting 30, 35% on gross. When that breaks down, the standard 20% overhead, paying sales and marketing 5 points, paying the owner 5 points because the owner is doing all the selling. Profit, they typically have about 5 points left over. So the way to read this, guys, I mean, if you're like, oh, Lane, my company's different. I'm like, okay, well, cool. But the only thing that matters at the end of the day is how much passive profit is your company throwing off? Because if it ain't throwing off any, you don't have a company, you have a job, and nobody buys jobs, which means you're never retiring. And when you're done with your career, your company's gonna die along with you. So moving forward, guys, neither of these 2 models, the proud craftsman or the subcontractor. And the thing is, you're probably saying, oh, Lane, I GC my own projects. I'm like, again, unless you're getting icing, you are a fucking subcontractor in my book. Sub in parentheses. You're a contractor, sub as in suboptimal contractor. And don't take offense to this. I'm trying to make you better. So guys, neither of those 2 models, subcontractor or proud craftsman, are levering the 2. There's only 2 levers to grow your profits. The first is they're not accommodating the buying curve. And that's a fancy way of saying maximizing profit per customer. Okay. 40% gross profit or bust, guys. Who cares about the close rate? And the cool thing about having a high gross profit is you shit screen out all those customers that are going to waste your time. And time is money. We want to be as efficient as we can with our calendar to get as much work done in the year to make as much money as we can. And so So every single homeowner, every single client, they're gonna have different tolerances in scope size, budget, service level, attention, right? They may just want a paint job, or they may want a paint job, and when you get there, you find out that they're puckering up to do a home remodel. Okay, great. We need a way to service these folks profitably. So this is what I mean by that. A normal contractor, in other words, you're a subcontractor or a proud craftsman, you're normal. And let's use the same kitchen for the sake of argument between a wedding cake contractor and a normal contractor. Okay. The normal guy on a 50K kitchen, 25K labor, 25K materials, but his labor is priced, 25 to 30% gross. And the wedding cake contractor, boom, he's getting a 10% design fee. There's 5K, which he nets out to. He's getting a 40% markup on materials. Boom, that's 10K of gross profit. And then the labor at 25K, boom, 40% gross profit, 10K. So when you add that up, the wedding cake contractor, because he controls the client, he's pulling 22K off this job, whereas the normal subcontractor is getting 6 to 7.5, right? 3 times the gross profit, same amount of work. If that doesn't piss you off, I don't know what will, guys. Now let's talk about the second driver, which is maximizing buying curve. So not only are we accommodating, right? Now we're maximizing the buying curve. And that's a fancy way of saying we're getting them to buy as much as possible. Your average client is only going to do a big ticket remodel 1.5 times in their life. But for the rest of their homeowner life, they may have a roof, they may need to fix foundation, they may need to replace siding, they may want to repaint, they may have handyman jobs, they may want a deck rebuilt. There's a lot of shit that we can't get to because our core business is, our calendar is full of self-performing the big ticket, high profit jobs, that these little jobs come our way that previously we were just referring out without getting anything back under some gentleman's agreement. I got news for you guys. Every time you do that, you're taking money out of your wife's purse, you're taking food off your kid's table. Stop doing that. Big boys pay for their business, whether they're paying for it in time in the form of giving you referrals back, or B, money, and you better be keeping score, because again, if you're not keeping score on the little things, you're not doing it on the big things, and the people that are suffering the most is your family. So moving on. This is what I mean by maximizing the buying curve, fellas. Again, the normal contractor, man, all you got was the kitchen, that same kitchen, right? But the wedding cake contractor, not only did you get the kitchen, but maybe they want to do an addition, or you can upsell them into a bathroom, or maybe the house has exterior work that needs to be done. They definitely need handyman work done throughout the year, and certainly they're going to do a repaint, when they buy and when they sell. Okay, we want to capture all of that. We're taking all the food off the table. And so the difference find is not only we're dipping into every single wallet that the customer has. They got a budget, let's say, for that kitchen, they got a budget for that bathroom, they got a budget for their siding, they got a budget for their maintenance. We're getting our grubby little fingers in each of those little wallets. But also, because we didn't have to, this is the other thing, guys, referrals are not free. You either paid for that with your time to generate that relationship, and that time costs you money, or you paid cash in the form of advertising. Either way, you paid. But the wedding cake contractor only pays once, because a text and an email is free. Whereas the normal contractor, every single job that comes to him, if he's being honest, he's got to charge money to his marketing budget for setting up that relationship or getting that lead. And so that, for the wedding cake contractor, that's 2 to 4% of extra profit baked in, which will range anywhere from $200 on the low end to $48,000 on the high end of net take home to mama profit. So guys, just for the sake of shits and grins, let's convert a subcontractor, a normal contractor, to the wedding cake model, the wedding cake contractor model. And for the sake of argument, these are 2 guys, Ace and Gary. One does sales, one does project management. And they advertise kitchens and additions because they saw one of my videos. They're like, shit, we should only be advertising on stuff that we can make 3 times our money back in net profit than what the contract cost us. And when they're on the ground, they're upselling baths or roofs or foundations or exterior work. And it doesn't matter if they're not going to self-perform it, they're still going to spiff it out. They're not lazy. They're getting their realtor referrals, and those referrals are coming in at all layers of the cake. And with their existing customers, customers. They've got a very lengthy, 3-5 year warranty program where they're coming back every 6 months to caulk lines, dress up paint, and fix hinges, which really gives them a reason to be inside the house to upsell additional work. Whether they self-perform or spiff it out is immaterial. So let's go through every single layer and I'll show you how it's different from a normal contractor. And I got a warning for you guys. There's gonna be a lot of math involved. So if you wanna just get to the money shot, fast forward about 5 minutes. But anyhow, critical assumptions, guys, because y'all love to poke holes in my maths, petty as it is. It's a dig at one of my friends. Hey there, if you're getting value from these videos, could I ask you to click the like button and smash, just subscribe to the channel. But assume a 10K a week production. Assume an average ticket of 120K because you're doing a mix of kitchens and additions. 5 projects in design, 5 projects in build limit at any given time because we observed the rule of 5, which gives us 4 turns in the course of a year, which means 20 jobs in design and 20 build jobs. BJs, love them. So that's build job, pull your head out of the gutter. And so you have 20 realtor relationships because you're not lazy and you're going to lunch once a month with every single of your realtor relationships, which your average realtor should be doing 10 deals a year minimum if they're not a stay-at-home mom pretending to be a business person. And so that'll get you exposure to 200 real estate deals. Mathematically, that should bank about 40-ish referrals throughout the year to you. And so just for the sake of argument, let's say that all these realtor referrals are not the good stuff. Let's say it's just handyman work or a paint job here or, a small bathroom there, which is too small for us to self-perform. We gotta spiff it out, right? Now, does it happen this way? No. CQC typically will get referrals to $1.2 million additions. No big deal. But again, I wanna keep this super conservative so then you guys come crying to me like, "Man, your numbers are overinflated. You're a fucking liar." No, I'm not. So let's talk about your icing. Remember, that's that good stuff on the left, right? We got 20 jobs for these 2 layers, right? And 120K ticket because it's a mix of these 2 layers. And so that means we're getting a 12K design fee on each of those 20 designs, which comes out to about $4,800 of gross profit. And when you extrapolate that over the year, that's an extra $250,000 in revenue and 96K in gross profit that a normal contractor doesn't get. And then on the other side, we have our cake, right? 20 jobs, 48 weeks. We're literally taking 4 weeks off to go on vacation because nobody wants us to do anything between Thanksgiving and Christmas anyway. 120K ticket, that's 2.4 mil in revenue, 40% gross profit. That means $960,000 in gross profit. Pretty tasty when normal subcontractors are getting a half to 2/3 of that. So now let's talk about the other 2 layers. We took care of our ADUs in additions. We took care of our kitchens, basement, etc. Now our calendar's full. We have no room for anything else. We don't have time. So we got to spiff out anything smaller than our project minimum, which in this case is 80K. Anything else we're spiffing out. So the spiffed out 2 layers of the cake, right? This kind of stuff and this kind of stuff. In other words, we're doing, got our smaller bathrooms, our decks, our outdoor kitchens, our siding, windows, our roofs, our paint jobs, and there's still icing over here, but we're capturing the icing, guys. We always capture the icing. As the wedding cake general contractor, we'll spiff out the cake of the layers that we don't want to self-perform. So average ticket, I did the 80-20 rule because the range could be anywhere from 1,000 to 79K in terms of the cakiness. And so let's say 20% are 79K tickets and 80% are 1K tickets, comes out to an average, a mean, if you will, of 16K. Okay, super, super not real in that overly conservative. And so 20 realtors means 10 sales a year. 20 realtors doing 10 deals a year times 20% need a contractor. That's 40 referrals. 40 referrals at a 16K ticket. We pull 2% off the top and spiff it down to our favorite subs or spiff it down to a specialty contractor. And so we collect $12,800 just for being cool, just for being this, right? Anyway, that $12,800 could buy you four more additions, 4 more kitchens. I mean, $12,800 is probably your truck payment for the year. You got a really nice truck. Again, just for being you. This is why we need to adopt the wedding cake model. We literally got paid to build our customer list. because we kept the icing. And so we self-perform the top 2-layer icing completely, right? So we're capturing, if there's any design work involved in that deck, any design work involved in that bathroom, we're just doing it internally and kicking the plans down to our spiffed out sub and acting the role of owner's rep to make sure that plans were executed on time, on standard. But that sub is accountable to the homeowner for the project. We have the best of all. So warranty work, that's definitely icing. You're probably thinking, fuck, Lane, that, you know, those callbacks, that cost me money. I'm like, well, hold on. You do your punch list right, you won't have callbacks, but we want to go back. Every 6 months, we want to be back in that home, you know, caulking stuff and resetting cabinets or hinges or whatever, touching up paint, whatever. Number one, it leads to referrals because the customer's like, holy shit, nobody does this for us. And number two, it gives us a reason to be in the home and see what needs to be done with that home, give them our professional verdict, expertise, assessment, appraisal, if you will, of the property. And so just again, budget, you know, needing to spend about 1% of your gross profit in paying for your bubbas to do, or your woodpetters to do warranty work. But again, if you're like CQC, we just pass that down to the customer. Instead of charging a 40% gross, we're charging a 41% gross. It's negligible. But in the end, we pick up $9,600 over the course of a year, extrapolated over 2.4 million, because that's 2.4 million in our bottom 2 layers of self-performed cake times 1% times another 40% gross, because we're going to charge ourselves a gross profit, and we get $9,600 that we recognize. Again, we just got paid to build customer goodwill and cross-sell more spiffed cake. And this is what I mean by that. So your sales guy goes back every 6 months. Hey, Bob, your siding, I'm seeing a lot of wood rot. Maybe we should upgrade to hardy board. Or, hey, June, got a hailstorm. You want to use our roofer? You've already built the customer goodwill. So this is what I mean by more spiffed out cake. So while your guy is there, he's looking at, if you've got the one whale that not only is going to do his kitchen, but now decides he wants to do an addition or an ADU, awesome. But let's just say the little shit, right? Like if you're a design build general contractor, you wouldn't touch, like a hall bath or a paint job, or hey, they want to swap out their windows. Cool, right? Not only are we doing self-performing 20 jobs, what I mean by self-performing, not only are we taking the icing, we're taking the cake too. We got 20 of those, but between 40 realtor referrals, that's 60 jobs per year. Those are 60 homeowners. Those are 60 houses per year. Your territory, your empire is growing by 60 houses per year, right? And that's going to yield you about 12 spiffed out jobs. In other words, it's not going to meet your core business. And let's, again, assuming that shitty, horrendous 16K ticket, that comes out to $38.40 per year. But you do this for 10 years, now it's $38,400 per year. That covers your rent. Hell, that could cover a nice mortgage. The point is, guys, little hinges swing big doors. But more importantly, if you just want to be real short-sighted, that $38.40, that just paid for 2 primary core business self-perform kind of projects. In other words, ADUs, additions, kitchens. It paid for 2 of those in paid advertising, free. Awesome. That's something that a normal contractor doesn't have. Let's look at this side by side, guys, right? On the right side, we have the normal model, the subcontractor model. On the left side, we have wedding cake contractor. And for it's an interesting visual on the right, the subcontractor is making no net profit on 2.4 million. In other words, after he pays himself, after he pays his taxes, he's got nothing. He's starting over at 0 again, trying to find his next meal. The proud craftsman, at least he's got 5% on average. So he took home 120K after his compensation. But the wedding cake contractor, now the subcontractor and the proud craftsman contractor are both everybody's capturing the same 2.4 million in scope, right? In build scope. But the wedding cake contractor, he's got that 2.4 million plus the $250,000 in design work, plus the 12,800 in spiffed out cake. And he's pulling 9,600 in spiffed out icing. He's pulling 3,840 in self-performed cake, warranty work, etc. So this fictitious Ace and Gary, who are operating the wedding cake model, just Ace and Gary, that's all that they are, the ambiguously profitable, the definitively profitable duo. This little old Saturday Night Live kind of parody. But anyway, that's 266,000 take home. That's over 2x more profitable than the proud craftsman. Now, what were the levers in that? Number one, the wedding cake contractor is getting 40% gross. Whereas your average proud craftsman is getting 30 to 35, right? So to be fair, the wedding cake guy is getting 40 to 45. The proud craftsman guy is getting 30 to 35. The sub is happy to scalp 20%, right? So that's a major lever. That lever right there is called maximizing the buying curve, right? On top of that, the wedding cake contractor is also getting his fingers in all those little other buckets that homeowner needs. The reason why he's not getting big scalps out of that is because he's having to spiff. It's a new word I invented. He's having to spiff those jobs to other subcontractors because he doesn't have the time or capability to self-perform that cake. In other words, to be the project manager, the general contractor of record that's responsible for that risk. Instead, he's ripping all the icing off that level and sending the project down to a sub, pulling a 2% spiff, hence the term spiff. And so for a lot of the subcontractors out there who have never operated business like this, they're probably thinking, I don't get paid on my referrals, I just get referrals back. And I'm like, okay, if you're gonna do that way, then you need to keep score, because if you're giving more than you're getting, the person that's paying that bill is your family. Remember that. So guys, this is a game of psychology and inches. You're probably thinking to yourself, Lane, this sounds like a huge pain in the ass to pick up 3840 per year. But those are the little inches that make the difference between a touchdown and 4th and goal. And there's psychology in this because you're getting all that icing. You control the customer. If you control the customer, nobody's bidding on the cake except you until you're ready to let it go. Does that make sense? It's how you get higher margins. And so you're probably thinking to yourself, but Lane, wouldn't this split my focus from my core business? And the answer is no, guys. And the reason why is because your core business is project management and client experience. You're not being paid to execute the trades anymore. Your background may be trim or finished carpentry, but you're not a finished carpenter anymore. You are a general contractor, and a general contractor's trade is project management and client experience. And so you only have so much time in your calendar. So you have to fill that calendar with the biggest, most profitable jobs you can, taking all the icing that comes, filling the rest with high profit, 40% gross cake, right? And then what's left over that comes to you as a result of your networking and your referrals and your advertising and your customer base, we spiff out because we still want to monetize the value of all that hard work. Otherwise, again, guys, repeat after me, if I do not get paid for my referrals, I am stealing from my kids. Make sense? So you have, by operating this way, by laser focusing on project management and client experience and self-performing as a general contractor. When I say self-performing as a general contractor, I'm not referring to the trades. I'm referring to the PM and the client experience work. In other words, taking responsibility for the risk of that contract, right? You have built a machine that's building the little profit machine that will run without you because you have enough profit to pay people to run it while you fuck off to Puerto Rico like yours truly. Make sense? Cool. And so again, guys, point of distinction, when you get this rocking and rolling, you're going to want to operate anything that you're spiffing out, that you're acting as an owner's rep on, you're going to want to do that on a separate brand away from your core business. And that's as simple as taking out another LLC. And by having another LLC and having a marketing and sales agreement between your core business and your side piece, you then isolate all the risk from that contract, reputational risk, liability, etc., onto that LLC. So if, God forbid, that subcontractor that you spiffed down to fucked it up, it blows back on a throwaway LLC, not your core business, right? That's just the reality of the world today, guys. You have to protect yourself that way. But anyhow, so we're only going to brand, in our case, CQC Home, the additions and the kitchens that we do the project management on. Anything that we're an owner's rep on, in other words, we introduce the two and we're holding the contractor accountable to the contract on behalf of the customer, but accepting no liability for the contract. That's called being an owner's rep. That stuff we do, I want you and all of us listening to do that under a separate LLC, okay? Think of this like Lexus and Toyota. It's the same owner, wildly different price points, wildly different profit margins and volume of sales. Okay, guys, not only if you spiff out work under your primary brand, not only do you accept the liability of those contracts, but you also ruin the price integrity of your core business, which drops you back down to a very poorly run proud craftsman getting 30 to 35 points instead of 40 to 45. Make sense? So 5 key distinctions I want you to take away from this, guys. Number 1, control the customer. You're licking that spoon clean of its icing. You control the customer, not the architect, not a designer, not a realtor, not another general contractor, you. Or you don't touch it, period, right? So you're capturing all that icing because you control the customer. And you self-perform in the jobs that you self-perform as a GC, meaning you're accepting the risk of the contract, you're doing the project management, right? We're only going to self-perform trades inside our projects as a means of gaining profit grippage because we have time, not for any other reason, okay? Number 2, self-perform as a GC means we accept the risk of the contract. We're doing project management and client experience. Those are our 2 trades. The actual real trades, those are done by subcontractors. This is how big boy construction works. Otherwise, if you want to argue with me on this, you're a proud craftsman and this message is not for you. Like don't get me wrong, you're successful, but you own a job that you will not be able to sell to somebody. So for anything else that we do not self-perform as general contractors, we leverage subs and spiff the job down to them. Now, spiff is not the same as sub. Sub means, again, we own the liability of the job. In a spiff, we're peeling 2 points off the top, making the introduction to the homeowner and assigning the entire contract, it's a legal term, assigning the entire contract down to the sub. And we're remaining only as a courtesy to the homeowner to ensure that the sub is meeting the standard. Otherwise, we'll go find another sub. Cool. So guys, just go execute. That's it in a nutshell. Let me know what your questions are in the comments and make sure you join our Facebook group for more awesome material, exclusive material like this, and y'all be good. Thank you. Inside the notes, you'll find a link to our free exclusive group for Remodel business owners where we post daily tactical training to improve your bottom line. So go check it out.